Yeah. So we're on session 22, and we are damnably close.
Hey,
you like that?
That's the name of the show. Oh my God, he said it. He said the thing.
It's the Leonardo DiCaprio. Hold it. Let me do this right.
It's like the end of the TV show, and they finally say the name of the show in the last episode. You're like, I said the name.
It's like the Aristocrats. Like it's
Who breaks bad this late in life?
That's why I'm the Fresh Prince of... No, he didn't say that.
First of all, who says breaks bad? Anyway.
I know. So we are at session 22, and Dolly Parton loves it.
My spirit animal.
Our listeners can't see it, but I'm drinking pop from a Dolly Parton mug, and Will is drinking one from a Hooters mug.
Hooters, if you're looking to sponsor an actual play, no, we're not.
No.
Okay.
And a caveat, that is my wife's mug, not mine. So I lay no claim to it. But you were in session 22. We are really close to the very end of this. And for those who watched or listened the previous week, some big D shit happened. And not like big D energy, but like some big decision energy. Some pretty big stuff. So maybe what we can, because Paige wasn't here, I think we're going to go back through it. And by the way, Adam had to step away, but he's going to be back in about a half hour, so he's just going to let him slide in. When he comes downstairs, I'll pause it and we'll pick it back up. But so I've already set the fortune tokens to where they need to be. Let's do initiative if we could.
Oh.
And just leave Pipistrel's initiative where it was last week if we could, please.
Pipistrella, yes.
Yeah. And you can move Carmen off there.
Ah, give me my emerald diamond.
Yes.
I would like the few
Saint
stuff.
Carmen.
There is no more Carmen. Carmen is Garmin.
So we've got initiative up on the board. We've got
Julie was the same.
we got fortune tokens already in the center of the table. How about we just jump right in?
Right.
So
I never go last.
let's talk about last
There
week.
you go.
Yeah, I need a refresher on last week.
Different.
Yeah. So what do you remember, Paige?
Well, I didn't see it.
What do you remember from the previous session?
From the previous session, we had to guess a name out of the stones.
Yes. So you discover the names.
We got the name, and then that's
the last thing you remember.
That's the last thing I remember.
Oh, that's right, because you missed 2 sessions. Did you miss 2
No,
sessions?
just one.
Just one, okay.
Just the you guys left the house last go round, which I wasn't here for, and I haven't watched that session.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we found ourselves once we left the cottage. We found ourselves outside of a ruined temple. Surrounding the temple, there are a number of husks that were looking up into the sky, where we saw another world hanging overhead, a mirror to the Well of Souls. We were greeted by a couple of figures. One was I believe it was a gray bandage. A man covered in gray bandages, wearing an iron mask.
Simon.
As well as Simon. Okay, yeah, the small. So,
Yep, and that the temple looks awful familiar whenever we stepped out.
Yeah. Something my character has not seen. There's also a woman with dark black hair, blue robes, with one arm standing outside the chapel, who is Beatrix the Bookbinder.
Right. Who's always with Simon.
Yep.
Simon began to speak to us of a new dawn. And reminded us that he had told us before that we would not believe him were we to try to understand what he was all about. But he's basically it seems that this group of people are working to remake the world, remake reality effectively in their own image.
System's broke.
Systems broke.
The life and death system's broke, so this guy is coming in for under new management, is the idea.
Yeah. Simon himself does not seek godhood. In fact, had apparently attempted the test and had failed. And so has been denied entry into godhood. But on the other hand, Lucius, right?
Lucius Lightbringer?
Lucius Lightbringer is still considered the head. Simon still serves Lucius in some capacity. And we were basically told that if we wish to see Lucius, we would have to give up all of our opportunities to come back to life. Effectively, we would have to basically burn through our remaining lives, and can only meet him in the most vulnerable position of being on the last, the basically the last chance. If we are to die, we would not be coming back.
On the mechanical side, fate points are shot.
Fate points are gone.
Yeah, fate points are gone. Your corruption is this.
It's 9.
9. It's
and
9.
we got through 9 passings.
9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We, after some deliberation, we agreed to do so because we could not find a way to move forward without doing so.
And this was kind of the linchpin of all of this was the kind of under new management portion of Lucius Lightbringer. The managers kind of are the ones on this path and on this trial and on this test. This has all been a test of potentially taking over a portion of deity or of the pantheon, so to speak.
After going through these the final passage here, we were brought to. Oh man, I'm trying to remember the location.
It was basically just a really pretty valley with the poppy fields.
With a tower.
Right. We basically took the river. I don't know if it's river Styx. It was a river. Mm-hmm. We got on our barge, took the river.
It got dark.
But you missed the whole point where, remember we started killing each other.
Yeah. No, you talked about that.
Oh,
that was a fun. It was a
no,
fun
we did
montage.
murder each other.
But in montage,
Yeah.
We
died.
killed each
Everybody
other.
died 1,000 deaths over as everyone
So we were
was.
like, well, we might as well kill each other at this
Which
point.
made our
If I'm not
my
mistaken,
doing be true.
in the last
Same.
episode, if you were to watch it, Daniel played yakety sax throughout that entire.
The Benny Hill theme.
Just slice it through
You
each
guys
other.
were just murdering each other?
Yeah.
That's the only way to get through the passings.
Yeah.
You had to experience the passage until the penultimate, until the final time.
Gotcha.
Then you're
Did you
right
kill
next
me
to the
too?
final. Yeah.
Oh
we
boy.
had to
We
kill
killed
you.
everybody.
Well,
There's no other way.
I guess
Or if you
technically
didn't want to,
speaking,
you
you
killed
can
yourself.
opt out, but then you got to go home because you can't be where we are unless you did.
Gotcha.
Well,
So.
I mean, you could have just killed yourself too. If you
Yeah,
wanted to.
Sure.
We could have
Kill
assumed
your
that,
friends.
we kind of experienced a montage of death until they awoke once again in the sepulture and they met some of the small to that point. So you go down the river and you end up in this kind of semi-barren field, and it's crowned with this single crumbling stone tower, and it's dusk. But the world above is almost like the worlds are nearly touching, like it's descending over the Well of Souls.
Right.
Safe.
There's it's a poppy field, and apparently there's the same kind of white poppies that popped up after the blood
The
plague.
Red Death.
Yeah, the Red Death.
We were greeted outside of this crumbling tower by Saint Carmen, who had caused the Red Death, who my character had, Tiberius had served for, back in what few memories he had left, and that he knows that he had killed.
Lot point.
Served.
Served and crucified.
Served and crucified.
Yeah.
Served her up.
We she led us into the tower where we discovered that the custodian
Yes.
was inside of this tower, chained
Just there.
to the ground, and basically being like kind of drained of her power and kind of kept there, Carmen asked us to kill her, didn't she?
Yep.
She produced a box,
Yes.
a mahogany box with a single misery cord inside, and said that you cannot seek the Lightbringer until you make a decision.
Yep.
What is to become of the goddess of death? And that's where this big conversation happened. I think we should actually just kind of.
But first we killed her.
But that's right.
We
So,
made
there was some discussion.
Octopus Razor Man.
Tiberius was having a bit of a crisis as to how to deal with it, because it turns out they were catching on, but Tiberius wasn't quite catching on that something was off, truly off about the saint. She may have been a vampire. It turns out, and
She's a vampire. Was.
yeah. Now it's hard. It's unsure of whether she became this way after going through the numerous passings, or maybe I believe somebody mentioned that she may have even been like this beforehand and we just didn't realize. But either way, it ultimately ended with us vanquishing her and removing her from the equation, and now we are left with deciding whether or not we are to kill the custodian. So that way we can see Lucius Lightbringer, or and also help herald in the new age, or do we leave her alive? So
Yeah.
she's somewhat at our mercy. We have freed her from her chains, did we?
No.
Or we
No.
tried to, and we were not able to.
So the saint has been martyred once again, but she is gone now. She
she's not
turned to ash, and in fact, the killing blow was dealt by Pipistrella. She dealt the most damage ever dealt in a Zweihander game.
It was insane.
34.
With a massive punch.
4 exploding dice.
She's-
4d6
Pip
exploding.
is a badass. I'm sorry.
She cast some. I can't remember what the spell
Banishment
was.
once.
We learned
No,
that
she
on
cast a
our
spell where
summer.
her scythe was like imbued with magical power,
Right.
and she crushed the Soma and
Yeah.
then like just waylaid. But you also learned a little bit about like what the Soma represents too.
Yeah, so it turns out that's not the calcified essence of a person that's like gone. They're alive in the moment. In their reflection, we are literally crushing their essence, and we're not experiencing their last thing. We are creating their last moments, and we happen to experience them, but we're creating them.
So think all the shells
Yeah.
shells that you've slaughtered. Those were all.
Yeah. Yeah, there it is.
There it is. There it is.
They're all there.
I did one,
There it is.
and
You
that
can't
was me.
see it, but her head is now buried.
So
Did not.
if it helps
do well with
you, Tiberius doesn't have any, so he doesn't have the stain of that sin on his soul like you guys do.
Just,
Thank you.
just
You're
a one,
welcome.
but that's enough.
Whoa,
Thanks.
you killed.
Enough.
You had to have killed like shells of people, right? So,
Yeah,
I was trapped in a
What
cave.
was what?
Yeah.
Speaking of
They
which,
never- they
what
never
was
attacked
the
again?
last
Never
memory of
bothered.
Spillicin
Oh,
experienced?
okay, that makes sense.
It was a bad one.
Oh, that's
It was
right.
a no bad one.
Yeah, that's right. It was a
Yeah.
bad one.
It was a
Yeah.
bad. Oh
Yeah.
shit.
So we-
Yeah,
Fuck
right?
grandmas.
Yeah.
And so,
Ah!
and this is functionally
Or
what the
Raven, sorry.
discussion kind of became, right? Is that, so here we are, we have this choice. If we kill the custodian, we are ushering in a new era where functionally we are going to be potentially the new pantheon.
That's a great start, actually, to the session.
I'm sorry.
No, it's perfect.
And then the other option being, right, we let her live, and this brutally cruel cycle of generations and generations and generations continues. Right.
So as you're inside this crumbling tower, blood has spilt all over the floor where Saint Carmen was brought low, and where her blood has spilled between the cobblestones, white poppies have begun to grow and erupt, like quickly among them, spilling out along beneath the threshold of the door, and already the interior of the tower has begun to blossom with these white poppies everywhere. Dead center in the middle of here, you're kind of catching your breath after all this has happened. There is this figure, this dying figure of gray, semi-transparent flesh, wearing a moth-eaten shift, and her face is not visible, but she looks emaciated and old, and like she's fading between reality and her passing, you would suspect. But by all intent and purposes, it is the custodian, the god of death. And she is chained to the floor with these obsidian shackles that, try as he might, Tiberius could not free her from. But where Carmen stood, where her head now rests, with the brick between the teeth, sitting up on a little pile of stones, there's this wooden box stained with blood. And as you go over to it, you lift up these little copper clasps, a box about this size. As you open the copper clasp, you can see a single plain misery cord inside. The knife that a knight would use to give the mercy blow, literally the namesake to the weapon, the mercy blow to the dying. And that is what Carmen proposed. She proposed, you have a choice. Will you allow the custodian in this cycle to persist? Or will you change things? And this kicked off a very deep philosophical discussion about life and death in the world. And that's where we pick up.
But probably also to note, Adam and multiple people tried to speak with her, tried to interact with her.
Yeah.
There is nothing. She cannot do that either.
She cannot. Yeah. She does not seem to either understand or as Pipistrella kind of had an epiphany, it said she cannot interact with the free will of the living.
Great.
Okay.
So that's where we're at, is let her live or kill her.
You can see that sitting upon the stones near where Carmen's head is this single set of scales. And you can feel the weight of the token in your pocket, in your hand, around your neck. The token that you were given when you joined Bastion. The token that when you come up against decisions, when there is no clear answer, it is a majority rules. The coins are given out equally to all of you. And that's and typically when you run into these situations, that is when Thomas calls for a debate and then a final vote. And you are still mid-debate about what this means, about the impact it can have on the world, upon you, as representatives of humanity, as Thomas has said many times. The literal fate of the future of Mahalma in the campaign world broadly rests upon your trembling shoulders.
So we cast votes.
Okay, how do we do the votes? Are we?
We've already voted.
You already voted?
Yeah.
Voted. They're in his hand right there.
So-
you need before we left last.
They can, so
Ah!
votes were the coins haven't been placed yet into the scales, but I don't think the debate is yet over for Paige to have the opportunity to participate.
Yeah.
And we also talked after the game a little bit about like the philosophy of the world itself, which may impact decisions.
Yeah, because I did ask the one question: is like, what is the current afterlife situation?
Yeah.
And the current
But you
afterlife
can't.
situation.
You
is
could
what we
recast your vote,
experienced.
just to be clear. Yeah.
Right.
It's just
Recycle.
a
Reverse.
recycle of purgatory, over and over and over again until you basically
Forever.
then yeah.
Crushed upon the wheel type of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this was my take, was that I don't agree with Lucius Lightbringer. I think he is evil. I think we need to stop it. I also think he's an entirely necessary catalyst
Okay.
to kind of stop this whole cruelty. So that was kind of my take on it, was that we can accept a new change and not accept him necessarily as the absolute head of it all. We can walk the path that he's created and then take him and be done with it. Decide for ourselves what we're doing.
For Tiberius, beyond the question of just the should mortals such as ourselves have hold such power, and you know and something we cannot fully grasp. We can only perceive what we perceive. There must be so much more to this than we can comprehend, and the sheer arrogance it would take for us to believe that we should be the ones to make these decisions. Another question Tiberius has is the afterlife as we have experienced it. How much of that experience is what it has been, and how much has been already changed and perverted by Lucius Lightbringer? Is this a, what do you call it? Is it really this bad, or is this a, what do you call it?
Schism or
a
offshoot, or
is this a
Current status because of what he's doing.
are we being duped into
Right.
believing he is right by having him kind of twist how we perceive it, so that way we would be more willing to blame her?
like our own sandbox?
So yeah, he's created a sandbox, stuck us inside of it, and said, "This is the horrible world they've created," despite the fact that maybe he is the one who created this, because knowing that we would end up here at some point, and he needs us. I don't know. And Tiberius is there's so many unknown variables that Tiberius does not. I don't know.
Could also reflect upon your faith has been extremely shaken at this point.
100%.
Your God, who you served, who you thought you killed for no good reason, turned out to be a vampire.
Turned out to be a pretty good reason.
Probably killed her for a very good reason.
We don't know, and that's the thing, is he'll never know, and that's part of he is
Right.
meant
No,
to,
yeah,
is
I mean,
he will never. He was not able to get that answer as to why he killed her in the first place, and so Tiberius is a little out of his mind right now.
Yeah.
So.
Which makes sense. It's
Yeah.
Tiberius.
It is
Overthinks
Tiberius.
everything, but usually comes up with a good
Yes.
idea.
The mind.
Tiberius does that. Yes.
Wink.
Not will.
So yeah, and basically the sorry, I should have brought this up earlier. Basically, the alternative of what Lightbringer is bringing up is, as opposed to this constant kind of cycle of reincarnation, purgatory for however long, and then back into the material kind of realm, is having an actual nirvana, a heaven, a end point for souls.
Right.
Is basically what he's proposing.
Plus, how do we decide?
Or St. Carmen called it the Jubilee.
The Jubilee. Thank you.
Sorry.
The new dawn.
Yeah, the Jubilee.
Well, all right.
And so, like, that is the alternative system that they're functionally proposing, as opposed to this forever.
The loop.
Yeah. So, sorry, that just wanted to be another piece of information that I felt was fairly clutch.
This is a lot.
Yeah, right?
Well, see, that's all right.
Okay.
So now Clovis's philosophy, right?
Right.
Break it all. Nothing that he's ever seen has worked. Lords shouldn't have power over people. There should be kings shouldn't have power. God shouldn't have power. Break it all.
Espilisan's kind
Break
of,
it all and start over.
Yeah, Espilisan's kind of in the same boat
Just the same thing as with
as you.
the lady telling me I have to kill somebody to move on. I'm like, maybe I should kill you instead.
Yeah.
That's literally how that discussion kind of went down, too, hilariously. Yeah.
Like, what if we killed you? And then she's like, didn't say anything until I like slowly like creeps over to the door to block it.
And that's when Clovis pulled up a Zweihander, and then there was like a 3-round fight.
Nice.
Yeah.
And she
did drain me.
She did, yeah, 3% off his combat permanently.
Yep.
I did not help.
What is everybody's damage condition?
You
just
were
out of curiosity?
kind of catatonic.
Unharmed.
I also don't have any soma, so I can't harm her.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
'cause
I
she
have
was
lots
catching,
of soma.
Still unharmed.
She was catching
I
blows,
have
as
lots
they
of
say.
soma.
Yeah.
Catching them fists.
I'm moderately wounded.
Moderately wounded.
So you know, for those of you who grew up among the Covenant faith, which is technically everyone, even the Siabra, that in the Librum it says that the deeds that you commit while alive determine the fate in which you were reborn. Not we as in us in the real world call it reincarnation. They simply call it the cycle. You are reborn again and again and again. And there's no understanding of how long those stretches of periods are. Like, is it immediate? Is it over eras? No one really knows. But the custodian is the one who sits at the threshold and ushers people on to the next phase, the next cycle.
But
not
how do we
interesting.
know it's not good? That's
That's the big question,
of the
right?
soul, like he's talking about. But
Yeah.
Isn't that an interesting?
I mean, how do you know that you're not
legit-
just brand new?
It's an interesting metaphor
That's
for
right.
player
Yeah,
I know.
characters.
Why
Sorry,
you
what's that?
said both ways.
It's an interesting metaphor
That's
for
right.
player
I-
characters because we stop playing a character and they ostensibly die at some point, and then we play a different character. So it's like
Yes.
we're part of the cycle
Yeah.
as player characters.
Yes. There's some meta
As
there.
players.
Yeah.
Well, the question is,
Net
birth,
new soul.
does this affect birth? Does it break the system completely? I mean, obviously, don't listen to Clovis. He wants to burn everything.
That's right. We talked about
Sure.
that. Yeah, because
You know,
if there's a
that's-
finite amount of souls, we had
Yeah.
that conversation. Because if there's a finite amount of souls, if the entire system is built around reincarnation or going through these cycles, and if we were to start taking people out of that pool and putting them into the Jubilee, what does that mean for the people on Earth? Do we eventually stop seeing people being born, or people being born with no soul? What would this mean to remove souls from the pool?
I'm still not sold on that one, though.
You're
But
over-
I
you're
understand
overthinking.
the
I
concern,
mean,
but that also assumes that at all times the population has maintained an exact equilibrium, which obviously...
So I think we should shift from us to our characters
Right.
to have
Yeah,
this
yeah.
discussion.
What do you think? That's
Yeah,
what-
here's
let's
like-
start digging into what our characters would know and
Yeah.
understand as opposed to our
Sure.
So let's talk. Let's make that transition now if we
Yeah.
can.
Tiberius says that exact same thing in Tiberius' voice.
Guillaume just doesn't care for bullies at all. Like, that has been his experience throughout his life, was being, kind of structured and pushed in certain directions and never quite being good enough, and like being that shame but having to be perfect all the time, and like that kind of control. He can't stand that, and he lashes out against any person ever doing that type of bully mentality. So
I don't.
honestly, like, that's where he's kind of at, is like,
So
is
you
the
wanna-
custodian
you-
any better than Lucian Lightbringer?
Right, you want to break the world just so you can kill Lucius.
I want to break the world because I want to stop this system and any shitty system after this.
Well, we've been tested at every step of the way this far. What makes you think that killing Lucius isn't a test too. Like, we need to pass this test. It's the final one.
I don't think
Is
there's.
it the final one to the next step?
Perhaps
The next
it-
test.
Perhaps
Look, you guys all know mine. Clovis thinks very simple.
What were you gonna say, Tiberius?
Burn the world down. From the ashes, something better will rise. That's my thought.
I mean, but that's only because there's systems in place to ensure that life continues on. We're talking about breaking the cycle that creates that cycle of life. You burn a forest down, and yes, of course, it paves way for new growth. But that is because that is how that system works. If we break the system, there's no guarantee anything rises again. This is. You may say that I'm overthinking this, but this is. There's no greater thing to think about.
But this, I mean, isn't there us? I mean, isn't that the thing that we can become the system in place? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Or are we pawns here, is what he's
And-
trying to say.
yeah,
We're gonna kill the custodian and this Lucius character gets to take over.
I think killing. My opinion is that killing the custodian here, if that's even possible to truly kill a god, I think that plays right into Lucius' hands, and I do not wish to do so. And I do not. I believe Lucius Lightbringer must die. There's no question about that.
Agreed.
But
there's no other way to
with
get
you
to
on
him.
that one.
That's what we've been told. But we were also told that we would see the saint, and that thing that we destroyed, that is not the saint. That was somebody else. This is not the woman that I followed.
Okay, then what's your suggestion?
I mean, does Freyna bring us any closer to Lucius Lightbringer?
We don't know. We don't know anything. We've only been told what we. We've only been.
So why don't we walk out, tell Simon, and
Simon's not here.
what's outside?
They're back.
Oh, he's out
Continue.
there. Okay.
This is stop one on the choo-choo train.
Well, we know where
Sorry,
Simon
Riverboat.
sits, right? I mean, Simon is for Lucius Lightbringer forever and ever. Amen. That's where he sits. We know
Yeah,
that.
that's true. Well, let's just lie to him until we killed the custodian. We're ready to move on. Oh, and also, Clovis got upset and killed the saint.
And even
So,
within this,
no need to worry about 10. There's just 9 of us.
well,
We all get to move forward.
I feel I should mention, if we do plan to confront Lucius Lightbringer, my sword arm would not be nearly as useful if Carmen has the same sort of power that Lucius. If Lucius has the same sort of power that Carmen have, I would not be able to affect him much. But
I feel like I might be able to help with that.
yes.
Yeah, we have plenty of Soma to go around. Now, remember
No,
what it
if,
costs.
I don't, and that's the thing is I don't know if I wish to use it.
if
even
you
though-
don't wish to use Soma, all you need to do is have faith in the custodian. It worked for me.
Yeah.
Faith is proving to be a very difficult thing for me to have at this point.
You've seen her yourself. She exists. She is alive.
I
very
don't
faith.
disagree with that.
I did not use the Soma to strike her down.
Would
I
you
used,
mind if
I used the Soma to make my blade sharper.
do you have extras of this Soma?
Yeah.
Would you mind if I had some?
Absolutely, it's all yours.
And if you still don't want to use it, I'm sure my faith will substitute it for yours.
Take one of my summons as well.
He'll nod at you on that. How much Soma should I write down, guys?
Take one summon for me.
And one from me.
You say what?
One from me, one from him.
One for me.
Oh.
We have 3. That's why I have 3 left.
Thank you all. I appreciate that. Will appreciates that. Tiberius looks at it and goes, kind of just grimly looks at it and then puts it into his pouch, knowing what this means.
Yeah.
But Will's like, yeah.
You are going to be toying with mortals for the rest of your time. If time will even exist in the next phase of this madness.
What's the point of this?
That's
though?
what I want to know.
What's the point of?
That's why I want to burn it all down and see what's next.
Power, immortality, a whole lot of things, I would imagine.
Power over what?
All of humanity.
All
So
this
was
many?
a decision reached while I was absent?
No.
We are still waiting for SB's vote. We're allowing her to have the discussion.
We're-
but she
yeah,
didn't
we're
vote.
And to be
opening the
clear, it
discussion.
is a private vote.
Yes.
So you will write either freedom or death on the inside of this card when you feel
When
the
I'm
time
ready.
is right.
I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
I'm
Or if
just-
you're like some people at the table will write a lot more.
Death. I just. From what we understand, right? I mean, all these gods were just people in the first place anyway. I mean, who were they?
Now, specifically the decision we're looking to make here with these.
I'm almost done with my thought first.
I'm
So
so
who were
sorry.
they? So who were they to decide what was knowledgeable and what was their domains and what was right and what was incorrect? I mean, do we not have that same power now that we have that opportunity? I mean, they didn't have the moral right or ethical right to do what they were doing or even be in power right now. They have as much ethical or moral right as we do to change it. That's my take. I mean, I can certainly learn on the job. It's not exactly like the world was utopia while they figured things out anyway, or have the knowledge that they do now.
So
I mean, their entire hubris, their power, led to the rise of Lucius Lightbringer, as far as I'm concerned. So why is that system so worth preserving or so worth defending?
If they created the system that we ourselves were molded in, everything that. What makes us think that we could truly revolutionize a system that we are in every fiber of our being a part of?
Because we inherently know that it is wrong and broken.
but hold
But
on.
so did they.
You had free choice, did you not? As a Mercator Knight, and you killed your saint.
I don't know why.
Well, we obviously know why she was a vampire.
Perhaps.
No. Look past whatever madness is in your brain.
I know she's a vampire now. I cannot remember
Was.
who she was
Is
before.
and is now not.
She's now Ash. Yes, I'm not. There's no disputing that.
She was. Look at the flowers. Look at the Red Death all around you. What killed Galleon? It wasn't the Mercators. It was her.
Her death.
No. Her death created the Red Death. And we see the same flowers here before we even killed her. She was Death. You tried to kill Death. Death just took you. Well, not you. You had to torture your brain in a cave because you thought you killed your saint when you killed a vampire.
Above board, I cannot remember to save my life, but was she in bed with Lucius Lightbringer while she was still alive?
I don't know that we ever found that answer
We-
out, and that's
Killed her a little too soon for that.
yeah.
Okay,
That's
sorry.
to say we don't know
Moving
that's
on.
and that's why Tiberius
Thank
is
you.
the
Yep.
because we did not get those answers. We
Cool,
don't
sorry,
know.
thanks.
Yeah. So that's the core of our debate.
There's no quarter. She was. There's absolutes.
Okay,
She
so
was, is, and now isn't.
if we choose death,
Why even choose godhood when you can already see it all?
Oh, I already have chosen.
I know that you've chosen. You made your choice. I understand that.
so if we choose death, what does that look? I'm making sure before I vote that I understand exactly what's going to happen. If we choose death, the cycle continues.
If we choose death,
far
the
as I
cycle
know.
stops.
The
We don't know.
cycle stops.
The
If we
cycle
choose
is now
freedom,
broken.
we have the power.
If we choose freedom, the custodian is now back in charge of death. Yeah. If we choose slay, we're functionally trying to pick some new jobs. If we say freedom, we are tacitly endorsing the current system.
What will we do with the custodian? Free her or kill her?
Right. Past all the nonsensical understandings of what reality is. That's it. Kill her or let her live.
Break the system, deal with whatever comes after that, or hold the system up.
So, Spilson,
Yep.
your people have been tortured, slaughtered, ran off their land. Why is this system so good to you?
It's not.
Yeah, nor my people.
But I also urge you to remember that people have lived and laughed and loved. There are signs for it everywhere that you can see.
Live, laugh,
It's an accident.
love.
That was an
Trying so
accident.
hard not to laugh.
People have lived full lives. People have, even in the midst of
And how do you know that won't continue?
So, do you wish to get rid of free will?
I wish to burn it all down.
Because if you wish to get rid of free will, then that would have stopped what had happened to both of your people.
Oh, I don't think we're even
If
debating
they
that.
had, if they had done if they had done truly what the gods' decrees were, they wouldn't have done such a thing to either of you.
Well, sure.
Are we enacting free will right now?
But that's the whole point of this.
Yes.
We have the freedom to choose. Well, I wouldn't say we would get rid of that, but...
Do we actually have the freedom though?
I believe what,
I mean, yeah, that's the whole point of this.
but I believe what you're saying is
Kill
that
or not.
But if we're stuck in a loop, we're not really free.
Well, that's just because we're using our own double psychology at this point. Well, we think he might think this, so he might think that's all we're doing at this point. So
Yeah, that's what I kept saying.
I can guarantee you that us bringing Carmen low was probably not part of his plan.
Oh, no. I just like to break things. And I want to break more. So,
I mean,
I think everyone knows my vote, even without even thinking about it.
I like my Widowmaker
And
a lot.
I think Pip is one of my favorite people I've ever met. And I know this is something that means something to her, but when it comes to it, break the will, burn the building,
I am a father.
destroy the Lord,
I am a follower.
kill the king, kill the gods. That's what I think.
I am a follower of my goddess, and she did not weigh in when I asked her. Therefore, she wanted free will, so I don't want to sway you either way.
I already voted.
She voted. Fold it up. You ready?
I turned it in.
She drops her coin into the scales.
Where's my heart beating faster?
Yeah. I'm still not convinced I've made the right decision, so
I don't care.
What's the
Clovis!
worst? What's the worst that could happen?
Toma.
That's where I'm at.
the only
My hero.
decision we don't know is yours.
So, Toma has been chosen by Simon the Small and by you to be the arbiter of all decisions for Bastion. Just beyond the tower, you imagine that the remainder of Bastion, Beatrix the Bookbinder, Simon the Small, and many others who have followed your wake, followed literally in your wake, await this decision. The entirety of this tower is filled with these white flowers everywhere, covering the doors, covering the windows, along the floor. The pollen, the smell of it kind of is choking in here. And where these flowers blossom, there is blood. Blood everywhere on the walls, between the mortar and the cracks and the scores that you've been made into the bottom of your boots with stones. But Toma, you lead Bastion. I have read none of these answers. So Toma will tell us the fate
Oh boy.
of the custodian, and I have not peeked. I swear to you, I've read nothing.
And with always his flair for the dramatic. Behold, the most important moment in human history.
Well, my heart is kind of fasting.
All right, so he opens the scales, or he sets the coins to the scales and begins to tally the votes. We have death and freedom, neck and neck, with more death and two, and more death here, and more death,
Oh, man, that's
and two freedom,
So do we have all the
more
votes?
death.
What does Tomas say?
Kill.
You have the
That was mine.
you have the wooden case with the misery cord in it. Toma, what happens?
I'll do it.
I'll grab it. My soul's already black.
Nope. I'm the leader. It has to be me.
You got it, boss.
I'm
Come
standing
on.
at your 8.
you
Ready.
can stand with me, but it has to be me. And he removes the misery cord from the box and carefully closes it again, and walks up to the custodian. Looks to Pip. Sorry it had to be this way.
No, it didn't.
Waits for a few moments and
You know what you were doing is wrong. But it is your choice. It isn't mine.
Free will.
Yes.
You said it yourself.
I hate
Yes.
that it has to be this way. As tears stream down his face.
And Pipistrella won't go towards you at all. She will approach the custodian and hold her hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's cold, nearly lifeless. You can feel the slow pulsing of what life remains in the veins of her arms. You can feel her heartbeat. You can see her eyes, pupilless, meet yours.
You only need to say the word. But I know you won't.
I'm gonna go and place my hand on Pip's shoulder.
You were loved for so long. It's now time for rest. As he plunges the misery cord and right to her neck.
Her form turns to motes of dust falling to the floor. And Pip, as this happens, everything you have been filled with, this wellspring, is this is poured out. You feel completely empty as you have lost all of your powers. And as this happens, the flowers begin to wither. Like curling at the petals, curl up and turn black as they begin to die. There is a silence. And then you can see that Tomas' cloak begins to molder, turning gray and then black, as does his flesh. You feel you hold within your hands the powers of life and death. The blade turns ethereal until it seems to be a part of you. Until it's like a limb or a finger or a bone. His face turns gaunt. His voice turns low.
Alright.
Better me than you.
We feeling all right, boss?
The scales, as he reaches to pick them up, disintegrate with a touch. Falling at first, oxidizing and turning to rust, and just disintegrating into bits of metal. Including the coins. The final decision has been made.
What do we do next?
Are you in there?
Continue the journey. As he turns and heads back towards the river.
You open the door into the fields, and it is filled with death. Not a blade of grass grows. All the poppies have withered and died. As you look toward Bastion, you see distant figures falling. One by one, all of Bastion turns to ash. You see one of the wheels of the wagon kind of drop until it breaks and falls. The river begins to dry. The sky overhead descends ever so closer. The sun begins to rise in the east. And that's when you can see a flock approach. There's a group of figures. You can kind of imagine like you're seeing something as the sun's rising. They kind of almost look like red silhouettes. And there's this aging figure walking with this flock of people. And they move with a rigidity that reminds you of the husks of the damned, of yourselves. And as they come ever so closer, you recognize the face upon this old man. You've seen it in the temples in Roaline, in the temples of Aglador, and even in Galleon, of the iconographs of the Holy Father of Placard, worn upon the face of this man. And his flock who follows behind him are that of the damned. They begin to slowly gather around you.
Guillaume
Clovis?
Guillaume readies his shield and mortuary sword.
You recognize that there must be 30 score with him. A massive wake of people bleed from the horizon.
You want to go out in a blaze of glory, guys? My chaos is high. I'm ready to play.
Let's see what he has to say.
I got my Widowmaker in my hand. It's a trembling.
Yeah, I'm with Espy on this one.
I check the blade by like shaving off my hairs to make sure it's nice and ready.
There is the sound of the wind kind of carries across the field. And as he approaches, his flock drops to their knees, prostrated before all of you. The old man stands up on an old shepherd's crook, leaning up on it. He looks very old. A man who's this old shouldn't be alive. His skin is liver stained. His skin is withdrawn. He doesn't look dead, but he looks very, very old. All of his hair is gone. One eye is turned completely white. You can see the points of his ears. He's Siabran. Or half Siabran, we should say, for those who know about the history.
I'm gonna slowly walk up to him.
Walk back into the tower.
I'm just gonna lock eyes and walk towards him.
A new dawn comes. There's a sense of peace and stillness here, an absence of something greater than yourselves. For once in your time here in Galleon, you feel fully in control. You feel as if the strings have been cut. You feel a sense of freedom.
All cycles must come to an end, even for you.
Yes. Long have we struggled to see this day come. A cruel task. A cruel quest.
Yes.
But it is not one that began in this world, but one that began in the other. Children of the yeah. Sorry.
If we're to take up
Stop stomping.
your mantles, have you any advice for us?
The future is untold. You have removed the linchpin to all that is life and death. A new era will dawn upon the material realm. The well of souls and the world will collide.
Does it give you excitement, hope?
What is a man to say when he sees his
journey come to its end. I feel tired. I feel also tired.
Aren't you supposed to be Ricard? Aren't you supposed to be the Holy Father? Aren't you supposed to hold the tenements of all this that you want to destroy, or you had us destroyed?
In life, I held a
Privileged life?
position that is only a esteemed few have held since the first shore over 3 eras. And then came the cataclysm. When the martyr's tear fell over the city, the world changed. The faith, the covenant shattered. That is when I came here and understood what must be done.
What must be done?
I spent 85 years in Atlador trying to lead our people to a new dawn, to a new understanding, a return to the old ways, but I was so very wrong. It wasn't until here in Galleon that I was tested, and tested I have been. You, too, will test others.
Yes.
This may be a new beginning, but this is not the end.
Tiberius walks back out of the tower, by the way, he's carrying something.
I'm gonna take off my mask.
What do we see?
Well, you see my sliced face. You see my eyes are getting really, really red. And I look a little chaotic at the moment.
I beg your forgiveness, but I know we are far beyond that.
We can make it quick.
I'm gonna strike.
No,
All right.
Okay. Roll a hit. It's trivial.
Trivial,
Mhm.
trivial.
Too late.
Probably action.
She rushes forward with great speed.
Those bird legs just.
Oh god, oh god, oh god.
Don't you?
I'm under pressure. Hold
you
on.
want to ask, was she a vampire?
Was this,
The answer's yes.
I know trivial. This is, simple.
I was Bacard.
No, simple melee.
The answer's yes.
Sorry, combat. I gotta get back into it. 4, 5, 6, 75. 69.
Nice. Unfortunately, your blade passes through him as if it was a dream.
Oh fuck!
It simply tunk, hits the ground, biting the earth.
My Widowmaker and everything?
Mm-hmm. Stop lust.
What?
There's
I immediately put my mask back on.
Stop lust.
you still cling to your vicious humanity, thinking that steel and gunpowder can ward away that which you do not understand. Do you not know that you have no power here? The power of life and death has been sundered. There is no death.
You have
What?
no power over me.
What about our guy then?
And you have no power over death. Your steel is meaningless.
What is that Madoff friend then here?
That was before the custodian passed.
You do not possess the custodian's power then?
There's only one way to find out.
Ah.
I'm gonna step forward with the head of St. Carmen. I kind of just
Like what's that? Perseus and
Yeah.
Morgan.
Not quite like that. Just more
like a petting the head, like a hello, hand inside. Hello,
Doctor
like a
No.
meat puppet.
I think Tiberius is more like shoulder slump, kind of near defeated.
Yeah.
And kind of just rolls the head on the ground to him, and it said, "You're the last one who has probably answers to this, and before whatever happens is going to happen, I just need to know what. Why did I kill this woman? Not whatever she's become before. If there was a before. I don't know if she was always like this.
Not always.
No. Clovis? No. Clovis, I swear to God.
Which one?
Right there.
You seem to know things. You seem to be the last one with answers.
Carmen, when she was alive, was the Earthborn Avatar, the martyr. She was to bring about the Jubilee. This was a threat to Galleon, a world that had been long since without gods. They too thought that a change was afoot. The gods would have no power in Galleon. So she was struck down by the Mercadian Knights. I do not know what role you played in that. Judging by the garb that you wear, you feel a weight. Yes?
Always.
Her death is not on your hands. It was bound to happen. If it was not you, it would have been another. And even then, you would have been acting in Galleon's best interests. No gods. Only men.
So then this creature that we faced in this tower here, this was after?
We are all dark shadows of what we once were. Oof. Look to yourself, boy. Have you not seen your face in the river?
I haven't dared to look at it since the day that I woke up here.
I don't know what else to tell you. But in the Well of Souls, or what was once the Well of Souls, the weight of your sin is gone. You don't have to worry about being reborn again. You feel guilt. It is guilt that has been instilled in you in your youth. The teachings of the covenant that we taught our followers. Be honest, be good. Do well. Pray to the gods. Honor your parents, honor your lords. And what did that get us? Nowhere. A vicious cycle would repeat over and over and over. And where he'd be condemned to be reborn. There was no finality.
We're finally here now. This is the end.
Indeed. The worlds grow ever so closer. A conjunction is upon us.
So what happens during this conjunction?
Will the dead rise?
When you look to the mirror, what do you see? For one to stare at, if you were to stare into the water of your own face, what is the first thing you see?
Perhaps in this junction we should find our function.
What is the function of this conjunction?
What do I see? My face?
The ripple in the water.
Yeah.
A
Reflection.
A reflection indeed. And when you step into the water,
You create ripples, puddles. Okay.
that is what is going to happen. There will be no passage.
What about the other gods?
What of them?
The steward, the martyr, the learner.
Do they?
Are these made up? Is it just one god? And it's a god of life and death?
Yes. For many years, we had taught the precepts of the faith, of the influence of the moderns. Do we know them as people from the first era? We know them as in the stories in the Holy Librum. The Decalogue Tenant speaks extensively about their early lives in the Forbidden Kingdom before they came here.
After all, they did have names,
Indeed.
and we were forbade from speaking them aloud. Not directly, but taught that if we were to, it would invite a curse.
Yes. To know a god to speak their name aloud is blasphemy. We teach these things as parables. The steward, a god of civilization and fire. The very backbone of society built upon his words. Certainly you have prayed in his temples. The numerous censers that burn, the hymns sung in his name, the steel and black powder that rings out across the battlefield, all in the name of the steward. We look to books to teach and to learn and to educate, and to know that it pleases the learner to unearth the secrets of the histories.
Guillaume leans in.
In some so selfish to hold those secrets so close and so dear. The Alornites represent the worst of us.
You should never trust them.
And then there's the
Boy, we
martyr.
are on the same page.
Then there's the martyr. The goddess of life and childbirth. The herald of new souls. We have all wept with the adherents, over the dead, over the dying. We've all prayed hard, hoping she would give some sense of, to lift the pain from the dying. These are all fine stories that keep people in line. They are laws greater than the laws of men. They are the laws of gods. But they are stories. What power the chosen do manage to eke out in their name is false. If they look deep within themselves, they know this true. There is only one God, and she is gone.
One question. No more death in the mortal realm. Never again. Is that what you're saying? What about the person who's crippled? They have to spend their entire life, eternity of being crippled?
It is not that death.
Eternity of being blind?
It is not.
Eternity I don't understand. There's no end to anything now.
It is not that there is no death, as is that there is no rebirth.
No rebirth.
And those who wait up in the veil, within the veil, true gods, forgotten gods, beyonders, now encroach ever so closer to the world. When there is no faith and no believers, it leaves room for beings from beyond to see their will exacted upon the world.
This is what you wanted?
This is what you have chosen. Wittingly or not, the cycle is ended. There will be death. And perhaps there will be a jubilee. But there will be no rebirth. And in time, the world will wither until oblivion. And within that chaos and discord, a spark of hope a rebirth. Nothing that we will experience in our lifetimes. Perhaps for you, maybe. But for us, we will turn to dust until we see those days come.
So why did you want to kill the custodian in the first place then, if this whole concept was to get to this spark of hope? Again, getting to rebirth.
I have undergone these same trials. I, like others, had not the wherewithal or the strength to do so. As you can see, I am nearing my final passage, where I will fade into oblivion.
Why did Kazira and the others seem to believe that they too would be granted godhood? Where did they come to this conclusion?
He lied to them.
Instruments in the conjunction.
Yeah, again, that's a fancy way of saying he lied to him.
Simon shepherded them as best he could. Some were willing to accept the truth when they experienced it, when they saw it. One cannot simply be told the truth without seeing it yourself. It is the same thing that I experienced when I was still young in this world.
What are these Beyonders? What are they?
Oh, they are elder things that predate even the first era.
The demons. You know, used to be called them the Deums.
The figured the blasphemous gods, the Librum, yes, called devils and demons and whatever else the faith could come up with to scare you away from them, to keep children in at night.
Haven't you heard the priests tell of the temptation of these things far out?
I lived in Galleon. We had no priest.
We have heard all
They were
the...
dead.
It is not the voice of gods, but it is the nagging feeling in the back of your head when you second guess your decisions, when you have a feeling in the pit of your stomach, when you feel someone is there, but you turn and there's mere shadows in the corner of the room. You dismiss it as deja vu, but it is the presence of the Beyonders, of people like Tomas to be, those who will return to the world, who seek to inherit it.
Well, what happens to humanity when these things come back?
That I do not have an answer to.
Well, I wanted to burn everything down. I guess I got my wish. How can I help you along your way?
I was wondering the same thing.
I am going to walk up this hill, and I think I am going to die there. The
What about
future.
all these people? All these...
These rigid things gather in the material realm, awaiting a thing to make the passage into the material realm, to herald the new era.
the thing? To help them
The
along?
person, the people, the shepherds of the new dawn. The end of the cataclysm. From destruction, rebirth.
Let the throng welcome us to our destiny.
Mhm.
I wish I had more answers for you.
You've given much. We were very loved.
You could go up the hill now.
He nods, smiling plainly.
And he begins to walk away up on his shepherd's crook as he ascends the hill toward the tower. And the closer he gets, the slower he walks. You can see his feet passing through the dead fields, the grass kind of stomp beneath of his feet. And as he comes to the crest, he pauses. He looks toward the sky. You sense that perhaps there's a smile on his face, that there's a sense of completion or purpose. And then he collapses, a distant figure, near the tower. The throngs wither, cracking and dying around you. The sun blazing in your face. The fields turn from gray to green, and the seasons pass very quickly until you feel the firmness of the earth beneath your feet once again. You feel the weight of the steel in your hands. An absence still in Pipistrella's case. But you awaken somewhere where you can hear the gentle lapping of waves. Sand. The sound of seagulls. The smell of salt. There is a fleet of ships that await along the distant blue ocean. A few are moored near the shore where you stand, where your feet are planted among the stones. You can feel the foam of water around your feet. Emerging from a small boat, you can see 3 figures. An older man, a younger one, and a young woman holding his hand. They emerge upon the shore where you stand. That's it. That's our game. That's the end.
Holy cow. Our new custodian, everybody.
Or should we say Night Daddy?
Night Daddy!
Night Daddy!
Who's the Night Daddy?
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Come on.
So, that's it.
That's awesome.
I will say that in advance, and I said this before too, that I only had a few ideas where the story would take us. You all drove everything else. I knew some plot points. I didn't know where it was going to end. I knew a few things I wanted to throw at you, and it evolved dramatically over the past year. But the end that we have come to has been driven purely by you. Purely by you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's because we're cool.
We kind of get to decide what the 4th era is collectively in the game.
Oh,
We get to
Hell
kind
yeah.
of write that future.
I love that.
that's pretty
We
cool.
get to kind of tell that story collectively. So, what that means for the future of the gods in the 4th era, or how the last cataclysm, the larger story arc in the world of Mahama resolves, or whatever that is, we can collectively decide.
That'd be fun.
Guillaume's got some ideas.
Yeah, maybe not the an ideal end, but to be clear, the custodian is gone, so there is no rebirth. There is simply death.
Well,
So it's the,
Tiberius is right. It was a little gentle lie.
Adam, I'm really curious about Pipistrella's perspective on this.
Oh, we're all our enemy now.
I don't really know. She was confused because she would have just given her life if the custodian had even made the slightest hint or inkling for her to save her. But she just kind of thought that all of that was a display of hubris and cowardice on Blackheart's part, that he put someone else through what he didn't have the courage to do.
Mm-hmm.
I love the
And-
same thing.
Yeah.
She also thought that no one had any idea what they were getting themselves into, including her.
Mm-hmm.
So she learned from earlier that, like, you know, judging something so quickly based off of what you know can lead to, you know, an innocent person dying, like she shot that one man with the arrow.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's waiting to see what happens, but yeah, like just not knowing, I mean, like, just the absence of that presence is probably going to leave her pretty distraught and sad.
Yeah.
Because she had a personal connection with that god.
Mm-hmm.
So
You mentioned something very early on that I really kind of stuck with me throughout this entire 22 sessions, which was this idea that the custodian saved Pipistrella from death for some greater purpose she did not understand. And I thought it would be interesting as the story went on to actually to position you and everyone else in the situation where her death now hung in your hands, or her death, whatever you want to call that.
Right.
That was kind of collectively in the hands of you and everyone else, to see how Pipistrella will react to that.
I mean, she was one of the two.
Mm-hmm. Who, just out of curiosity, who chose freedom?
Just those two.
Ah, okay.
Oh yeah, that was. I thought that was pretty clear.
Yeah, it's
and
pretty clear.
Yeah.
That was according to
I had to push the
character
button.
belief.
Come on.
Like, what Adam thought was it'd be really cool if one of my former characters wound up as the custodian, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, that was what I was thinking when I was writing that down. Like, there's no way Pipistrella would choose to kill her.
Yeah.
But that was the thing is I would have went that way, but not this brutal, broken person would have.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I thought the exact same thing in my head. Is like, this is like, all of these people are giant fucking cowards. I'll stab this person.
Yeah. There's
Because that's what they are to me.
Yeah.
so, some of you
Because I didn't believe in the god. I
Yeah.
didn't believe in anything, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's his.
Believed in the blade.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Now
the only
nobody
thing that
gets
ever
to
served
believe
me,
in it.
right?
Yeah.
And that's what I tried to project with this character's simplicity was everything to him.
Mhm.
Is there an easy answer? Yeah. It usually
Take it, yeah.
It usually ends with me putting my sword into something because it's the easiest answer.
It's the sharp answer.
There's many of you were not here for this, but Tim was. When we started running games in Mahoma, and to be clear, like, we were 19, so this is 28 years ago. This campaign world was kicked off by these 6 figures from previous games who were called the 6 companions in history, and we kind of collectively shaped what that meant, because they were instrumental in the change in the world, in the same way that your 6 characters are instrumental in the change of the world. And I definitely want to hear each of your perspectives about what your read is on the story, but I think I would also like for us to talk about what that means in the 4th era, like how your stories for these characters echo into what becomes the next stage of Mahoma. But before we get to that, let's talk about Tiberius. Like, so this all happens. So do you think Tiberius got the answers he sought?
No, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's I actually see the end of this to be somewhat tragic for Tiberius, but not that isn't something that isn't self-imposed in a way. I mean, obviously it's self-imposed because he did slay somebody and regretted that decision, but he will never understand. I don't think he will ever truly understand why.
Yeah.
But I also think the tragic aspect is he'll never be able to move forward from this.
Mm-hmm.
He did not get those answers. Those answers don't. In the face of the biggest decision that affects all of reality, and he still just can't let go of his own past to even see a true path forward. And so I think that I think that he gets somewhat of a tragic end here.
But is there an end though? Because like when you think about like for the 4th age, like what shapes the 4th age, and it's us. So like what the things that drive your character through this campaign will kind of be like kind of an aspect of if there are 6 deities that press on, the things that you experienced in this campaign will be an aspect of that deity. That's the way I read it.
That's absolutely true. Is Tiberius the god of tragedy?
Right.
Like, these are the things to think about.
Self-doubt.
Self-doubt,
Redemption,
doubting.
right.
Don't be a doubting Tiberius, right?
Tiberius.
So but that's my point. Is like, even though we have, it is kind of a sad end for some characters, but we the players get to collectively decide what that means. What that means in this, not just the next story, but honestly, the world that we've collectively been playing in for fucking years. Like, and I'm not just, and this is like, and to be clear, this is for us. This is for future players at this table. It's for people who read our books. Like, these are the things that will be found in it.
So that's my only question is what Lucard said right at the end.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we've been taught to be kind, be this, be that, be that. What is it? Is he talking about chaos without those rules? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. So
and I lived in Galleon, right?
That's right.
And I know what chaos is.
Yeah.
Because that's what it truly was.
Yeah.
Right. Especially towards the end, after the Mercators, caused what they caused.
Yeah.
And above board, can we talk about this?
Yeah. By all means. Yeah.
She was a vampire. Remember,
Yes.
you sent Eulith and
Yes.
well, there was a whole campaign to slaughter her.
Yes.
Oh, see, I don't have that context.
That's amazing.
Only Tim does.
I
To be
tried to
fair.
tell you multiple
But
times.
I can't
Right.
tell. It's impossible for me to tell without that context. Is
Right.
Tim speaking in character?
No, I
at
was
me?
completely speaking as Clovis the entire time. I would
Yeah.
have never told you that. I was just all like, no, it's absolute. This is how the world
Because
works.
that is Clovis, yeah. that is
Yeah.
Clovis,
The world
that
is
works.
only. There's no gray. There's no black and white. It's just this one thing.
Yeah,
Thing I
and there's
can
no,
cut,
and to be
thing I
clear,
can't cut.
there's no expectation for you to know the history. It's better
Yeah,
if it's
no, it's
fresh,
better.
but
Yeah.
but completely above board. That is 100% true.
Yeah.
Yulf died trying to
Unsplash,
kill Carmen, and Tiberius was his right-hand man. That was 1996.
Wait, so Tiberius is a former character?
Yep.
Yeah.
NPC.
Who played it? Oh, NPC. Oh, cool.
AD&D 2E. He was a henchman.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Did I play
Yeah.
anything like that in? Probably not. No.
He was just an NPC. He's a named NPC that had
Just
nothing
an
else.
NPC.
And
You
were
told the
broken.
story.
You're broken because of what happened, but we were sent by Picard.
Yeah.
That's why he basically just fucking absolutely lied to you. More lies upon more lies.
I love
He
for
wanted
Gil.
to break the world that he had. He
Oh,
basically
thank
found
you.
out that his faith was what he had built his entire life on was wrong.
It's false.
It
Yeah.
was false. And he got pissed off and he wanted to break it. That's really what this all comes down to.
Blacarn, the liar.
The hubris of one man saying, "This, I dedicated my life to this," and it's, or maybe the greatest thing for one man to say,
Righteous vengeance.
Yeah, righteous vengeance. This is broken.
What about for Guillaume?
In terms of the overall story, I think Guillaume was given basically everything he could have hoped for. As he was, that's all he wanted was just answers about anything and everything, right? That he just wants to know and understand how things work. Mostly because he never understood that was like the backstory that I started creating was like the fact that he was nobility, but he had the purple birthmarks, and so therefore he was like the Kennedy daughter. It was like, they don't exist, right? Like, and it basically, and as soon as they got like another kid that they could actually marry off and have any sort of power, he was entirely unnecessary type of thing. So,
Uninherited.
and so he was always curious as to why about anything because it just never made any sense to him. So like, he's now in a really, honestly, he's in a great position. This is what he wants, and he has every anticipation that going forward through the fourth era that he will fail. In terms of writing this generation, because that is what he has done. Not necessarily in a tragic way, but that is what he has done in this campaign. Is he has failed continually, basically to maintain his humanity through a lot of it. He lost a lot of that humanity, and so he is going to assume that he will also fail in this pursuit. And I don't know if we're gonna discuss this later, but he's gonna make a backup plan.
Yeah.
That's gonna be his entire goal.
Yeah, we'll talk about
Big red button.
Yeah. So, is there anything else? I know you spoke pretty extensively about Clovis, Tim. Is there anything else like you thought would be interesting to mention before we move on to like the bigger conversation?
No. I mean, I just tried to make a simple warrior here, like not the non-thinking. It's, there's just absolutes to every day, right? So
Which was refreshing in a complex gray.
It was the first time that I tried to do something weird like this, and I think I'm gonna have to push the soldier away for next campaign and try something different.
Yeah. Hey,
I love change.
there's one thing I like about
Chaos.
Tim's characters that's called referred to as cleaved to the matter at hand, both literally and figuratively. And if it's not Tim, it's Nick, and that's a standard of our
I
games.
told you I was gonna be Nick
Yeah.
this campaign. Absolutes with chaos.
I want to get to Nick last,
Okay.
because I
Fair.
think you have some perspectives, but I want to talk about the Spellscent.
Okay, so
To kind of set this up too, like this is your first time that you've gamed with us. This is our 22nd session that we've played almost over a year. I
Over a
think
year.
at this
Just
point.
about.
Yeah,
over a year.
almost a year. And people kind of come in at different points in time, but you've been there pretty much since the beginning. So I'm really curious about your perspective.
So
from the
I've got two kind of things that came to mind before the game officially ended. When you started having the waves on the sand, Espillicent kind of felt really peaceful and grounded, and removed her mask. So that's what I was envisioning when the sand and everything, because Espillicent is really one with nature, and something just came over her when the waves came up, and I just felt like taking the mask off and being kind of grounded in that moment. And then after it was done, I realized that the chaos of Espillicent and her constant just jetting up of the chaotic kind of feeling was because the constant lies and all of the it wasn't really reality for Espillicent. And so I think in that moment, once it was done, that chaos just went and she felt much better about actually being like there.
Yeah.
And having everything be solid and existence, and whatever was happening. And so she just kind of felt this peace right as that happened, and I think she's kind of wanting to get back into the tangible, real, what she can touch and smell and see and feel.
Yeah.
And removing that mask, I think, was a big deal for Espillicent.
So it's quite a literal change.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they do not remove their masks. The Ciavers don't. Well, the one that you had met, who was in among Bastion, like she was far beyond being a Ciavran. She had molded and shaped herself to be part of that, and that was a big deal for you to remove her mask.
It felt kind of freeing to take off the mask, and it felt freeing when I think she realized everything had that cycle, that constant chaotic cycle had finally just paused for a second.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there was just this peace, and then it ended, and I was like, oh crap! Espillicent just went.
Above board, who were the three? If I can ask, like that were on the shore.
I don't want to talk about that yet.
Done.
Yeah, stop asking.
Sorry.
Bigger
So
world
done.
stuff, man.
Don't worry
Dog
about
my
it.
boy Dan.
Don't
like
worry
that.
about it.
Look, I just want to be Odin.
Trust me, bro.
That's what I'm.
Oh no, Father Bro. So
be the broski that
Tamar, let's talk about him. I want to be clear.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave it completely ambiguous as to what happened to him. I felt it was interesting. The whoever chose to do the act, this was going to happen to, that they would take upon an aspect that truly reflected the world, the well souls that you're in. So if it would have been Espillicent or Tiberius or whoever, it doesn't matter. Pipistrella, I mean, whoever did it was going to happen to. I felt it appropriate because it would still show that Pipistrella's faith still lives on in something or someone. That it's not just the end in that sense that Lucius or Blacard thought it would be.
Right.
That it would represent some spark of hope. And it would also play toward the new tomorrow that you're going to collectively carve in this world. So, all that being said, Nick, I'm really curious about your perspective.
So, Thomas Laurent, he got his start as bailiff, and he collects coins from everyone. And we have, at the start of this campaign, the scales, and he continued to collect coins from everyone.
Yeah.
And he kind of gives this illusion of choice to everyone, that they're making the decisions about what's going on, but he's in charge. And it's one of those things where for me, I always look to my order and my order and chaos alignments, and I think for him, it's the chaos is cruelty and the order is curiosity. So he's always asking questions of everyone, pulling out their curiosity, pulling out what they want to hear from the decision and that sort of thing. But when it comes down to it, the chaos is the cruelty, and he's the one that has to mete out the justice. He's the one that ultimately sees through the final decisions. And I think, like, when he struck the custodian, the way I read it is, we were kind of talking about this whole cycle of rebirth and death, and in that moment Thomas kind of gains the knowledge of all his past lifetimes. So he kind of gets the knowledge of, say, Vilma and Herman and all these past characters. Like, all this knowledge kind of flows into him, and like he's got a legion of humanity within himself, and it doesn't make him go insane. It makes him ascend, and that's kind of where he is. That's how I read it, at least.
You mentioned something earlier about this, the metaphor of us playing all these characters persistently in this role, which you all will, Dave, and everyone. You'll play more characters over time, and you'll see and revisit these stories through different lenses, through different characters. And for those who've been here for a long time, Adam, Nick, and Tim, they've seen that very thing happen. Like, characters that are characters in the present always impact the future, whether they're revisited or stories are found out about them or persistent bloodlines. It's one thing that I think we've all collectively value about this campaign world, is that we are telling a shared story. It's not my game world, it's ours.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like publishing books. I'm talking about us just gaming at the table. Like, this is our story. So
Storyline.
you will whatever decisions we make for these 6 characters will have echoes into the next, and the next, and the next, and the next, up to the point where hopefully our children are gaming together. I mean, that's the cool fucking part, right?
That'd be awesome.
So, and they get to see this artifact that we've left behind. Which is the awesome thing about it. It's not about monetization. It's about having these things that we can revisit on YouTube. That's the best thing about it. Is like, I used to look through like notes and Wikipedia, and I was like, these are great. I always imagined what would it be like to like re-experience that in the moment. And that's the cool part about recording. It's like, it's awesome that people watch and listen, and it's great that you're donating to Patreon. But
Thanks, everyone.
but all that being said, I've always said since the beginning, we collectively agreed on this when we first started recording, which is the recording is the byproduct. The game is the game's foremost. And so we have these stories, and we have these visual artifacts on YouTube, and we have these things that people will talk about, But most importantly, now we get to talk about how we 7 want to collectively shape. I wasn't excluding anyone, by the way. I was excluding myself for a second. How your 6 characters, through lens of as the players, like how we shape the 4th era. Like what do you like? Because there's I think that there's this yearning for finality, right? Like to be like, my character story needs to come to close with this really cool thing that happens. And then there's a second part, which is, here's how I want it to echo in future campaigns.
Sure.
And I've kind of dropped a few kind of seeds in there on this idea about Beyonders, which are present at the Gangs of Cahabro game, trying to return to the world.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not the direction I'm saying we go. But I wanted to drop that in there, if only to kind of tee up some thoughts, because it could truly be these characters are 6 gods, and these are the gods that we get to define the new world with, and we get to advance the story 100 years into the 4th era, and like now we have these stories, or maybe it's 1 year, or 2 years, or 5 years, whatever it may be.
Sure. Like something within the Convergence itself would be buck wild.
Yeah.
Full disclosure.
Yeah.
Your
And
past,
go ahead.
your present, and your future.
What were you gonna say? No.
I was gonna just mentioning the gangs of Gehabro and the Beyonders. I swear, I thought you were setting him up to be the Night Father. That's who he is now, with the coins that he receives
Well, no,
similar
that's
to
what I'm
in
saying.
the world.
His
That's why.
past, his present, and his future is all collecting coins.
Yeah.
Because you gotta collect the
And-
coins off the eyes.
And he always send the coin to the Night Father, which
Yeah.
is why I called him the Night Daddy.
Night Daddy.
So if there's one thing I want to add to the 4th era, it's that he is always referred to as the Night
The
Daddy.
Night Daddy.
That's all I want. I want to refer to as the Night Daddy.
There'll be a cult called the Cult of the Night Daddy.
Instead of saying any
They worship- they-
prayers, they just say uwu.
Yeah, it's like that uwu. It's like that movement in like Renaissance, in Renaissance paintings of Jesus, like where they like sexualize like or the eroticization of Jesus.
The
It's like,
six-pack
well,
guys.
that-
Only
he's
good
the,
art
So
in-
the Night Daddy is the eroticization.
Oh, I love this.
Just holding a scale with one cocked eyebrow.
This might
One
be
cock.
another.
Eyebrow.
Yeah.
This might be another thing that you want to intentionally leave ambiguous. But in reference to the Beyonder, Lucius Lightbringer referenced whenever you kind of gained that aspect of the custodian that you had kind of become or would eventually become something like a Beyonder.
Yeah, he actually didn't say God at all, right?
Yeah, that's what he said. Was like, yeah, you were going to become one of these powerful things beyond the veil. Is that we're leaving that ambiguous right now as well?
We can define that, and it's not to say this is what the story needs to be. It was just I wanted to plant a seed to kind of get some ideas.
I love it.
Some thoughts around what are your. So I think maybe we can collectively answer kind of the biggest question, which is, did we return to the material realm? Did these characters go back?
I think so. I know Aspillicent was ready to kind of go back.
Mm-hmm.
And from my understanding, I don't know if there's a difference now. But at least much of one, if you're talking about this convergence, right?
Mhm.
Like, everything's almost kind of here now. Until eventually the Jubilee may or may not exist, right?
Yeah.
So, I would say yeah.
I feel like yeah.
Well, obviously Nick can't come.
Well, it's up to everybody. I think so. I think what's interesting to think about for Spillicin is we know the Siabra worship their dead ancestors.
Right.
They literally they embalm, or I shouldn't say they embalm, but they are literally living. The living dead are carried on palanquins throughout the world with the dying ancestor who they worship. Is that Spillicin a dying ancestor?
Can be.
Yeah.
I'd love to be carried around by you guys.
Well, by the Siabra, to be clear. But
No, I meant you guys. Just carry me around when I'm done.
Guys, I'm poop. Just
So just throw me in a ditch, set me on fire.
yeah.
So like I said, these are just ideas that there's no set future. I literally have nothing in mind. This is literally an open book, and I know it's like, here, write a story with me right now here. But I think if we start first with the what about my character,
Yeah.
right? That's the best place to start, and then that can be spun into the tapestry that becomes the 4th era. And we don't have to do it collectively together here, but I think at least providing some sort of like resolution for each character will help set up like what it could turn into.
How many ships are out there in that harbor that we?
An awful lot.
As many as there needs to be.
Yeah, as many as it needs to be. That's right. Yeah, it could be 6, could be 60.
That's where Clovis is going.
Where are they?
Ship number 3.
He's going to become Clovis the Black-Hearted. The seas will be his. He will slaughter all upon the shores.
I'm looking for the smallest
I want to be a
boat.
raider. I want to be the god of the raiders.
This is Chief's country, friend.
Right.
It's the Chief's Kingdom. This is Crown Town, baby.
I don't know.
Well, that's kind of
I
that's kind of interesting to think about
I
because
want to be Odin, damn it.
yeah.
Like
So
Chief's Nation or tribe.
so
that
is
makes more
he-
sense, like
I want one
colloquially
thing to be
within
named
the
after
name.
me, damn it.
Chief's Kingdom.
so there's a in
Wouldn't it be
Gangs
Chief's
of in Gangs of Gehabro. So the story of the Pharisimi is that they used to be the slave masters of Gehabro in the Second Era,
Right.
and then after the chain break, when the Gothric rose up against them, the Pharisimi left to the Tarantian Sea, and they came back as not as a place that conquered land, but they became a flotilla, a living, floating nation.
Dude.
And it'd be really interesting to think about like Clovis being discovered in that sense, discovered among the Pharisimi as whether he's a person or he is like a personage, a god, a beyonder, whatever he may be, the Blackheart, like that being like one of the beyonders in Gangs of Gehabro. How fucking cool would that be?
Yeah.
I'm okay
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just gonna wave behind myself and just start walking towards the ships.
Yeah. What about for Pipistrella?
Pipistrella is going to, like, what I would like is for her to, come to understand Toma's point, because Toma was doing this out of what he felt was a sense of justice, because as much as she would never actually admit it, the gods had their faults, definitely. And, then eventually she would come
But Pip
around.
wouldn't like allow that veil to kind of be broken to anything publicly. She kind of had those reservations, or
No, she was very quick to make up her mind often, but it was afterwards that she was like, oh, fuck, I did that. All right.
Gotcha.
It's an interesting echo around, like, remember when you met Virgil, right? In the another place, and he was talking about, I knew Asterius, I knew Eloran, I knew Philhia, who were like who became, we now know collectively that they were the Martyr, the Steward, and the Learner.
Yeah.
Right? They were seen as priests in the Librum, but the reality is that it's been painted in this story is that they actually were propped up as gods. That there was only one God, and that God is dead. The God was a custodian, the only real God, because the only thing that exists is life and death, and they're embodied by one person.
And
One God that was clearly, but they were very human and fallible, right?
so, she had grown close to each member of the party in their own way. I think the people she had the most like butting of heads with were you two.
yes.
But after a while she was able to come to you two's line of thinking, even though she may not have just outright said, no, she did say a couple times, no, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I was wrong to kill that man. And it's on me to live with that, and it's on me to choose to do better now, even if I can never recover morally from it. So she would see now that Toma has these choices because he has those powers of the god. And try to work with him, and if it's an amount of like responsibilities need to be doled out, she'd be willing to take some of those responsibilities so that he can be the night daddy.
It's gonna stick. It's
Right.
gonna
And
stick.
perhaps
Or in Europe, the night papa.
perhaps if she did stay in her lane, where she wanted to have some sort of domain over death, she would constantly receive gifts from these two, and so yeah, she would want to be a part of what was new, recognizing that while it was wrong what we did, they were also doing wrong, so we need to come up with what is best for everyone. that is in this world.
Is Pipistrella then maybe the herald of this new dawn?
I don't know.
I am.
Yeah, I don't know. Like she tends to like.
Dibs.
Well, Harold's a man's name.
Yeah.
Herald.
Not in the fourth era, it's not.
That's right. New era, new rules, baby.
So I think that makes sense, though. I mean, you have the dawn, you have the dark,
Are they two sides of the same coin?
but they're really the same because she's already basically worshipped what he is now.
Well,
Ish.
but it's also, I'm not meaning to speak for you, Adam, but isn't it also kind of interesting to think about the fact that the custodian wanted Pipistrella to live, to become witness to this thing? Is she the embodiment of the humanity of the gods? Like, is she the embodiment of humility or discovery, or I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about.
Do it what?
I don't know what all that means, but
That's an interesting idea, though.
I think she. Well, I remember like a long time ago, because we play out multiple characters, but they're all an aspect of any character I played is an aspect of me.
yeah.
And my very first character I ever played in this world was in Cahebro.
Mm-hmm.
His name was the Toad,
Mm-hmm.
and he called the custodian the Sweetheart. And I think it would make me very happy if one of my player characters wound up being somewhat, whatever we decide what it is, the death portion, like if Toma wanted to give her some of that responsibility. And she was also known as a kind goddess of death, or something like that.
Yeah.
Also focusing on discovery of and like self-reflection as well.
Is she the sweetheart? Is she the goddess of gentle passage? Is she? I mean, if you think about it, like the custodian's always been seen as, like, at least in on paper, as like god of passage, the god against the anathema, against the undead, but that doesn't necessarily jive with kind of what this game is really about, right? We kind of paint our own. We've been painting our own colors on top of Zweihander for decades.
She was that way at the beginning, but then she realized, perhaps I judged too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's an aspect of this world that I've loved for the longest time. The custodian has always been my favorite god.
Crouching one.
Yeah. So it would be very neat of me to see a character embody that.
Wouldn't it be cool for you to write the Beyonder for gangs in Cahebro called the Sweetheart,
Sure.
who is literally Pipistrella?
Yeah.
God, that's such a terrifying name, though, for a Beyonder, isn't it? Like, even if you're
Yeah,
terrifying,
Yeah.
it's just, like, you see her Beyonder, and you're like,
but
from beyond the veil. Oh,
Pipistrella's pretty terrifying, man.
Yeah, like she.
Dude, your left hook is
she would
vicious.
not-
Yeah.
she
I
wouldn't
will say.
she wouldn't pull any
There was
punches.
I call this the
A number
sweetheart.
of
And, like,
fights
when
ended
she
from your right cross.
call it
There was
the
a
rings.
number of fights.
when
that
she
stopped.
when she was like, when we were debating what to do with Carmen at the end there, and he was like, well, I just don't know if I could be here for this. And she was like, oh, but then you could wait outside. Trying to be helpful, but like totally cold at the same time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you don't mess with Pip.
So, I maybe she is called the Sweetheart. Maybe it's a different name.
The sweet beard.
I like the
Yeah,
I like
you
the
can-
Sweetheart because it kind of throws off the
Someone who is compassionate, but just
right,
you don't want to cross.
right.
But your compassion is still death.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's
And
what.
and I like the idea because I've seen a lot
all know
of
that it's
stories, so many stories about
Which
like
can't be merciful.
the embodiments of life and death throughout a lot of
Well,
different
think about
things,
I think about Sandman.
yeah,
like
yeah.
who
That's
death
what I
is in that. That's immediately
Yeah.
what I went to. I was like, Like that's why when you were talking about it, I was like,
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, because at that time, I was inspired by Neil Gaiman's death.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When we were talking about the custodian and how the Toad's people thought of them. Yeah, and then but there's also stories of how life sends gifts to death, and I like that idea because Clovis and Pipistrella got along surprisingly well, and so
Considering
Weirdly well, actually.
yeah.
how sacrilegious Clovis was. Yeah.
But, I mean, serious. We were the yin and yang of the group.
Very much
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
The Yin Yang twins. What about for Tiberius? Like, what does the future of Tiberius look like in this new era?
Above board. I've only been a part of this campaign for a very short amount of time, so that does. I'm not saying that affects how I think about this. But what I will say is here's
New blood. New
Yeah, you're
blood.
right.
Let's say, make your mark.
Yeah.
So here's what I like about Tiberius. Playing Tiberius is so you have Will knows that apparently she was a vampire beforehand, but Tiberius didn't. So
Still.
no,
broken.
but Tiberius could not see through that in life. But on his second chance, he was able to see through in a way the Lightbringer's lies, and that this was all a trap. He couldn't see fully what that trap was, but I see that as a strange growth as a person, and that's always been kind of Tiberius's thing, is trying to be better than what he was. He doesn't necessarily know exactly what he did wrong, but he was always striving. Every step forward he took, every step he took was to become a better man than whatever he was, and whatever people thought about him and how he thinks of himself, to escape that. Not only escape that, but to prove not necessarily prove them wrong, because they were right, but where many of them may have been right, but to prove to himself that he was worthy of something better than what he got. And one thing that he repeated to himself. Yeah, exactly. And one of the things he repeated to himself all the time was, "The darkness before me is but one stepping stone on the path to my salvation." That was what he was always whispering to himself whenever he was facing a stressful situation. I think. I'm not sure how much of this has a broader impact on the world, but I do think that I don't think Tiberius would sail off into the sunset and live happily after this. I think Tiberius would, for as long as he can, continue to move through the world trying to improve. Maybe never fully forgiving himself, maybe never fully finding the answers of what he was, but I think that's the point, is that you become better. Tiberius, he kind of is an embodiment for the idea that you become better the better you know yourself, the more you learn about yourself. You never stop learning about yourself, and those failures, while you carry them with you as part of you, and they can be crippling, they can also serve as a source of strength to help you keep, to give you a path to move away from.
Can you
right?
look in the mirror now? Because remember, you said that. That was a poignant fact.
Yeah, he can't.
That's something that's tough.
Great
because
question.
you can't look in the mirror. You can't really. Do you know yourself that well?
Well, and that's
Can you look in the mirror now?
I don't think at this point he could, but I think that is his goal. But I don't know if that's his goal. I don't think he achieved that goal in this particular story. So, but I think that's what he kind of now embodies, is that always moving. If I wanted to give him like a grander, how he may be seen by anyone who's heard his story from a positive fashion, it would be sort of I would say like the patron saint of moving forward, the patron saint of bettering yourself, the patron saint of a patron of personal redemption. But the whole part of the point is there is no end to it. There is no finish of the story. There is no you will.
No, I think could you be a god that actually walks Mahoma? There's always a god that falls but walks Mahoma to prove themselves better.
There was in previous games there was what they called the paladin. What was his name?
But he was always trying to get to the point where he
not Ethan Horn.
No, Ethan Horn was.
Yeah, he was the Bastard King. There was so something to think about. Like maybe this is a person who exists in this next campaign, for lack of a better term, as this wanderer who has founded a faith or a movement or something.
Everyone deserves a second chance.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Without rebirth,
Right.
Without rebirth, the second chance. You cannot wait for the gods to give you a second chance. You cannot wait for another turning of the wheel. You have to seize your own second chance, and you have to make it happen because you only get this one, right? And nobody, I think, knows that better than him at this point in time, because he is the last person who truly gets the second chance.
Right.
That will ever have
That's
a
a
second
good
chance.
point.
Yeah,
That is a
he's
really,
the last.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
That's a good arc.
You know,
I like that.
He's the
God of second chance, and your second chance is you are having to live it.
But your second chance is it all boils down to, and it's
I like that.
I hesitate to say it this way because it's not the god of bootstraps, because that's kind of a loaded term, but of taking
It doesn't exist anyway.
there is no with Tiberius, there's no promised you'll someday be able to look in the mirror. There's no promise of that. But it isn't important that you get that reward. It is more important that you seek to be better, and that is the important aspect of it. So you may never get a happy ending, but that's okay.
The goal is the journey.
The goal is the journey. You may never get a happy ending. You may never deserve a happy ending, but if you are so focused on getting that happy ending, then you never really truly wanted redemption anyway.
Yeah.
You just wanted to let go of your own guilt.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, meritocracy is a myth. It's the unicorn type situation, but you're trying to be the unicorn.
It's your challenge.
It's your challenge to always
your
be
life.
better. Always. Is it the fallen? But what are you searching for? Is there like a path? Are you trying to give forgiveness from the sweetheart, and she has to give you tokens?
Well, this is just yet another thing that he didn't raise a hand to stop Tomas.
No. But you, it's what Tiberius is focused on. Are you focused on your redemption for what you did in life, or what you did to the god? The actual, this thing was actually a god.
I'm saying yes. The answer is both. The answer is because even though you improved, he still hasn't reached there, so he's flawed. So again, he made a friend in Pipistrella. He voted to try to keep this god alive, but yet when the time came, he still capitulated to. Well, the group decided to. He could have stepped forward and said no.
So you'll never get off the wheel.
As a god,
Yeah.
there's a perpetuity to it.
And I also believe that if he was ever a god, he would be absolutely the reluctant god archetype. He does not believe he has earned
Tiberius the Reluctant.
Tiberius the Reluctant.
No. I mean, I think it's because there are a lot of pantheos. There's the god that has to make up for. Yeah, let's not go into some of the stories because they're usually rapey and terrible.
Yeah, but I mean, you got a Sisyphus, you got a Tantalus.
Right, you know what I'm talking
yeah,
about. That has to go back and has to struggle to find not only their godhood, but their humanity
Perhaps.
over and over again until they realize.
Theseus is my help me on that one.
Right.
Yes.
That's an amazing
Yeah,
work.
because that's.
Because it's the brain. He uses all brain, which is, I love that. Yeah.
Perhaps his followers.
And at least his fall isn't as garbage as the other one.
Yeah.
Perhaps his followers
yeah,
give
it
up
is
and
garbage, you're
shun
right.
mirrors. Because
They break mirrors wherever they see them.
like, perhaps,
mirrors are a reflection of the soul or the truth.
well,
Right.
mirrors may be also a reflection of your past, and to look into a mirror
To look
is
behind, yeah, to
prideful
look behind.
to think that
Yeah.
you're ready.
Are these like these aesthetics?
Think of it like this,
Yeah.
right? When you look in a mirror, right, do you try to make the ugliest pose you can to make sure before you walk out the door that you look as shitty as you can?
Right,
No,
right.
You always try to angle yourself in such a way that you feel good. Right, and that's how the mirror. And if we were to go the faith of the followers of Tiberius would see that the mirror is a lie. Mm-hmm. The mirror it gives you an excuse gives you the tool you need to try to excuse yourself out of self-betterment, because you'll think, good enough, right? No, it's like, no, it's not good enough.
So are the
You
is your
continue
other
forward.
name the man in the mirror?
What's that?
Which moon?
The man just outside of the mirror?
The broken mirror, yeah.
Well, the
Or on
blood
the
moon
other side of the
shattered
mirror.
into
Okay.
pieces and the
Okay.
martyrs' tears. Yeah.
The darkened
If it
mirror.
was the mirror, that
Oh,
would-
why do you guys always go
The
dark?
mirror is the
Darkened mirrors.
I'll destroy the moon. Hello.
Oh man, sorry, I just real. Oh man. His followers were mirrored shades, but the mirrors were always facing away. No, that's not what happens. That's not what happens.
What about Guillaume?
Alice
What about-
in Wonderland.
what is?
Guillaume?
Yeah.
Guillaume gets to work, man. He definitely takes again. If I can just say this out loud.
Yeah.
Okay. He takes the place of the learner, and the learner is no longer exists. Becomes the teacher. That is the name of his godhood.
No more hidden knowledge.
There is
more-
no hidden knowledge. As a matter of
It's
fact, that's what he
given
does. Exactly, and that would be the first thing that Guillaume actually does before he does anything else, is that he would try and build or construct large, incredibly large, like marble or stone pillars in each settlement and city there is, that talks about passing of seasons, crop rotations, how to handle minor cuts and abrasions, how to deal with infections, what to do for flu and cold.
These are the
Basic-
these are the pillars of truth.
Basic knowledge that will help you, right? And even
That
within
can't
this
be
pillar
hidden.
itself is how to actually learn how to read. Like that would be part of this massive pillar, which would be like kind of a stair. And so you would continue to walk up the stair to gain more and more and more and more knowledge. He would put that in every AM city everywhere, just to make life better across the board. Because he was definitely in some, as an investigator, he was definitely in some very gray areas a lot of times, and saw that type of stuff as he was a fancy boy and kind of saw that juxtaposition. So like that would be the first thing he does.
Yeah.
And the second thing is to create a true, not just autobiography, but a biography of each of the ages. If he would have access to that knowledge, he would create a pure actual biography of the people and the humans, and then share that. And then the last thing he would do is, because he would know that despite our best intentions and despite our knowledge and despite any of that information, that would probably fail. So he's going to, through his time as a deity, continue to learn as well as teach, but create a backup plan. Hey,
Y'all don't like
if
this?
if this ever comes around again, right, and it probably will, as we now are in the fourth era, this is what we messed up. This is what you can learn from. These are the things you're not going to think about yet that you need to think about. That's what he would do. He would create a compendium for the next era as well.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about like how the Covenant faith has been such a big part of every campaign, and now it's going to be sunset.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy.
it's crazy.
It feels good.
It feels good, but also bittersweet because we've come to like know what to expect
You know
from
the pantheon,
followers
you know the followers.
of each of the
Yeah.
of the gods, and like now that it's just like a whole new regime.
Now that I've been thinking about it, I've been thinking of more ways that I can turn the typical custodian on its ear with the sweetheart. Because like the custodian has relationship with undeath, as in like they're an abomination.
Yeah.
But I think it would be hilarious if the undeath were souls that were taken too soon, because either she was saving them from a terrible fate, or she just liked them so much and just got selfish
They're her
and took them.
sweethearts.
Yeah.
And
They're
so then the body is left like as a Hermosity.
So it kind of reflects like the grim humanity that inhabits the gods. That was kind of that was a continual theme in this whole campaign too. Is this idea of like it's this Grecian tragedy? Like these gods are just like how we read about the gods like being fallible and human and
100%.
turning into geese and all this terrible shit. Like we learned through this story that like the gods are just as fallible, and if in fact your characters are the new gods, we know that they're fallible.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
But yeah, no, he would
I
just
named
be
myself Blackheart.
super diffusive with knowledge and information. Like he just would not allow anybody else within the pantheon to have that sense of control because of ignorance.
Yeah.
Right? He would. This is exactly what Guillaume would do: is f all bullies forever.
Yeah.
Right?
You don't need to be held hostage by a snake oil salesman because your kid's got to run in a fever. He's not going to allow that. He's done with bullies entirely, and that starts with knowledge for him.
So I'm curious, Nick. So there's this the Latin word for death is quietus. I was thinking about this while we were talking. Like, is that who Toma becomes?
No, I think.
Or is it more about or is it the illusion of choice and balance?
Yeah, I think it moves more towards the choice and balance, because a refrain that Toma repeated throughout the campaign is "Hold on to your humanity."
Yep.
And like I feel like he's going to continue to kind of push that. Like, if I were to choose a name, and this kind of reflects my previous characters as well, because they all have a theme of chaos and, you know, blazing their own way, looking for the third path. So I think my god would be the Trailblazer, and he always looks for the alternative. He doesn't like to be pushed in any particular direction. It's about free will, and seizing fate for yourself. And I think, you know, since he was kind of foisted, or, you know, maybe not foisted, he liked being in control. So I think, like, if he were going to dole out pieces of power, it's like he would want to make sure that all of humanity believes in their own free will and has it, and then the rest of his companions who were with him, so with the trail blazing, it's causing all this chaos. And their job is to, like, make order of it, like, because he's trying to, you know, make sure every human has a piece of their humanity, but it comes at a cost of all this chaos. So the rest of everyone else kind of, you know, brings the order to the world, because they have to be in harmony. Because no god of my creation will ever be an order god.
Yeah.
It's the push the big red button guy.
The trail.
You don't want your god of life and death to
Are
be
we?
chaos.
Do you think that we've covered everything for Aspillicin at this point?
I don't know, cause in my head,
Come on, join the party.
Aspillicin kind of
Oh, you are God.
they've been a warrior since they can remember. They've been a fighter since they can remember, and they've been a follower since they can remember. But at the end of this, I see Aspillicin kind of going away and getting back to the roots of everything and creating from nature, like coming back to nature and creating weaponry, and is all of a sudden still worried about the inevitable chaos that's going to come. So she's still preparing for the potential chaos, and her revered ancestor is Telenescopy, and so they're going to go back to try to ask for forgiveness from Telenescopy. And because they've been kind of pulled into this other realm with all these other false reality people and deities and all this stuff, and so that sense of calm kind of happened, and they immediately wanted to find the small boat, get back into the woods, start asking for forgiveness, and starting to kind of get back to the basics of warfare, kind of like starting at the beginning and trying to figure out how to utilize the tangible items that they have to protect, and because
the hidden blade.
And I still have.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's maybe a guy named Hidden Blade, because you're like going back in the woods, like I don't want it, like hermitage. Yeah, I don't know.
Because
that's cool.
they're kind of a loner. They're kind of a loner, anyways. But dropping the mask, because the mask that they had was the fear mask,
But is dropping the mask?
I literally removed it.
Yeah, no, I understand
Yeah.
that. Is that freeing your society to drop their mask?
It felt freeing. It felt kind of like.
Is that going to affect other Siabran or Siabran culture? I think that's what Tim's getting to.
I think so, but I'm going to create another mask.
Interesting.
Because I still want to be masked, but taking off this particular mask was really kind of like the detachment from what has been happening.
You know, it's interesting.
The end of that story.
In
for
this
Millicent.
Gangsta Hero game, there's this little piece of the history I've written in about these people who come from distant shores that have learnt how to take down the behemoths of the sea using natural means, and they've been painted as the Siabra, that they live on these small pockets of islands in the Tarantian Sea. It'd be interesting to think about like what Espellicent is like as this figurehead they see that they carry around still, like as the Siabra outside of the city, because they actually are the slaughtermen too of Cahebro. They actually know how to harpoon and bring the behemoths in, and then they turn them into oil for Lamplighter's Way. One thing about the Fourth Era is, and this has been, we've recently painted this into the story of Cahebro, is that the veil is now a physical thing. It's the Aurora Borealis that lingers over the world, and it changes color and shape depending on the season. So the veil is no longer like this like thing. It's not just a metaphysical thing. It's actually a thing that people see in the sky.
Has anyone actually seen it though?
Oh yeah,
I have.
Incredible. This celestial phenomena, at least in Cahebro, can be seen, and veil walkers, because everyone sees it as like, oh, it's like this is sent this. So after, so the long and the short of it is, in this game world, it has long been up on the precipice of what's called the last cataclysm, which has been this like 7-year, like real world 7-year arc across multiple campaigns about the next era to come. And what happened in our previous campaign is Blackard actually died because he brought forth there used to be another moon in the sky. It was called the Blood Moon, and it turned into the Martyr's Tears, and they reigned over the world, and it destroyed the capital of Aglador, including Blackard and his followers. So in its wake, there is now like a belt of stones that surround the world, but also as night falls, the veil can be seen, and veil walkers look to it because they know that there are other gods who lurk on the periphery waiting to make their return. Whether they're old gods or new gods doesn't really matter. So it's interesting to think about how each of these stories you've kind of told here can be painted into Gangs of Cahebro, and will shape what we do next. I don't know what year we'll be starting our Cahebro game in Fourth Era, but it will probably be at least 100 years or so, maybe 200, long enough to where the future would be
just
settled. Yeah. And Adam and I will shape that in Gangs of Cahebro, because I think that all of these stories, the best way to do them the best service is to not only service them through our own table, but also to interweave them into the book for Gangs of Cahebro. So I think, so that kind of brings me to my final note, which is, this is the end of the Damned. This is the end of this campaign.
Fun campaign.
Yeah.
That
And
was awesome.
and it will play again. The next game we play will be Gangs of Cahebro. We will not be playing 2 weeks from now because I'll be out of town. But nonetheless, I would invite you, because to start, I'll send you the playtest material to invite you to begin thinking about a character type you may want to play. Because the next game will be set in Gangs of Cahebro. It'll be something new. It'll be something fresh. It's a whole new system with a lot of changes since you all played it last.
Oh.
But your stories that we told here through the Damned will be they'll be a part of it. We will have the opportunity to revisit these stories through different characters' lenses, through new lenses, and this is kind of really bittersweet for me because this is also kind of the end of Zweihander. Literally, this is the end, because Gangs of Cahebro is next, and then Zweihander will be picked up for another year or two. So this is like the last time that we'll play Zweihander for a long time.
That's not to say that there won't be Zweihander products.
That's right.
Soon.
Yeah, Zweihander is not over. Sorry. Zweihander game supplements will still be coming.
Yeah.
It's just that I personally will be working on mostly Gangs of Cahebro for the next 6 months, and Adam will be working on Gangs of Cahebro and Zweihander stuff, and then eventually Zweihander Reforged will come. But this is for our table, my basement, our game.
A game.
This is the last time we six and whoever else joins our game will collectively be playing Zweihander on the regular for a while.
Yeah.
So it's
Maybe the last time we play Revised.
it will be the last time we play Revised.
So as a
That's my first Zweihander experience. 10 out of 10 would play again. Yeah. It's
But
a great
you
time.
won't.
I won't for a while.
just a real quick point. What you saw me use in this campaign was one of the professions from Divinity Unleashed, which is still being laid out
This year, isn't it?
and for art. But there should be more news this year. At the very least, more definite, concrete news. And so that is coming. We haven't stopped working on it.
We had a lot of fun writing it, and we're so excited to share some of our ideas with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more to come for Zweihander from Grim Parallel Studios, Adam and Nick and others.
So if you want to see it first, sign up on the Patreon.
Yeah.
Do it.
This is the point where we shill.
Right, yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
But seriously, on a personal note, this is literally the last time I'll be running Zweihander for a very long time, so this is really weird.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it would be happening tonight. I thought we'd be ending like a couple weeks from now, so
Yeah.
it's a little weird. But nonetheless, we'll play. Next game is Gangs of Zweihander.
Stay away.
It's what we call it when you're not around. No.
Yeah. Zweihander's of Gang Hey Bro.
Hey, bro.
Gang Hey Bro. Hey Bro. Blah.
Okay,
Yeah.
bro.
That's right.
Okay,
So
bro.
thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your patronage. Thank you for sticking with us through this 22 nearly year-long campaign for Zweihander. And once again, this has always been about us. It's always been our story. And some of you are new, and now you get to make your mark, and you get to experience what Adam and Nick and Tim have done time and time again. So we get to tell
So
cool new
excited.
stories and have our stories live on. So
I like
so
it.
excited.
thank you all for watching and listening.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Goodbye.
I want to play like a